When was the last time you caught yourself spiraling into a storm of doubt? When your mind whispered, "You can't, you won't, you never will." Every single person faces that voice. The voice of limitation, the echo of negativity that holds us back from who we are meant to become. But today, you're not here to surrender to it. You're here to rise above it. Because the truth is simple: your thoughts create your world, and the moment you learn to control them, your entire life begins to transform. Negative thinking is not just a bad habit, it's a silent destroyer of dreams. It makes the possible seem impossible and turns potential into paralysis. But here's the reality most people overlook: you are not your thoughts. You are the thinker behind them. You have the power to observe your mind, to challenge its lies, and to rewrite the story you tell yourself every single day. Once you recognize that power, your inner world begins to shift, and when the inner world changes, the outer world follows. Becoming your best self begins with awareness. You must first notice the thoughts that dominate your mind. Do they empower you, or do they drain your energy? Do they inspire action, or do they breed fear? Every time a negative thought arises, pause. Don't fight it. Just see it for what it is: a fleeting cloud in the vast sky of your consciousness. You don't need to chase it or believe it. Simply let it pass. The more you practice this awareness, the stronger your mental resilience becomes. But awareness alone is not enough. You must replace negativity with truth. Every time you hear that inner voice say, "I can't," respond with, "I can learn." When it says, "I'm not enough," affirm, "I'm growing every day." When it whispers, "I'll never make it," remind yourself, "I've already come farther than I thought I could." The words you speak to yourself are not mere thoughts. They are commands to your subconscious mind. Speak strength. Speak faith. Speak progress. You were not born to live small. You were created with limitless potential, but negative thinking convinces you otherwise. The key is to challenge that illusion daily. Surround yourself with inspiration, books, mentors, environments that elevate your mindset. Protect your mental space as fiercely as you would protect your most precious treasure, because your mind is your most precious treasure. What you feed it becomes your future. Your best self is not hiding somewhere in the distance. It's waiting to emerge the moment you silence the noise of self-doubt. Growth is uncomfortable. Yes, but so is staying stuck. The difference is that one leads to freedom and the other to regret. So choose growth. Choose to see the good in yourself, even when no one else does. Choose to believe that your challenges are not punishments. They are preparation. Every setback is shaping the strength you'll soon need. Remember this: no one else can think for you. No one else can speak the words your soul needs to hear. Only you can decide what lives in your mind. When you start choosing gratitude over fear, courage over comfort, and discipline over distraction, you begin to reshape your destiny. This isn't magic, it's mindset. It's the quiet decision you make every morning to feed your faith more than your doubts. And now, as you listen to these words, let this truth settle deep within you. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are learning to rise, to rewire, to rediscover the power that's always been inside you. Negative thoughts may visit, but they no longer have the right to stay, because from this moment forward, you are no longer a prisoner of your mind. You are its master. So step boldly into your future. Believe in your own light. Refuse to let the shadows of yesterday define the brightness of your tomorrow. The journey to your best self doesn't begin with a change in your circumstances. It begins right here, by changing your thoughts. The moment you do, everything else will follow. The most important conversation you will ever have is not with another person. It's the one you have with yourself. Every single day, from the moment you open your eyes to the moment you fall asleep, your inner voice is speaking. It's interpreting, judging, reacting, and guiding you through every choice, every emotion, and every dream. This voice can be your greatest ally or your most destructive enemy. It can remind you of your power or replay your insecurities on an endless loop. The way you speak to yourself determines the quality of your life far more than any external force ever could. Think about it. When you wake up in the morning, your first thoughts set the tone for your entire day. If you tell yourself, "I'm tired, I can't handle this," your body and mind will follow that command. But if you begin with, "I'm grateful, I'm strong, I'm ready," you activate a completely different energy, a sense of purpose that transforms ordinary moments into opportunities. Your words carry vibration. They shape emotion. They become the filter through which you see your world. The truth is, your life doesn't change when your circumstances improve. It changes when your mindset does. The human mind is naturally wired to focus on threats, mistakes, and danger. It's a survival mechanism. But in modern life, this tendency often turns inward. You start to criticize yourself for not being enough, for failing, for not having all the answers. Over time, this self-talk becomes a habit, a mental soundtrack that plays subconsciously. To master your inner dialogue, you must first interrupt that pattern. You must become aware of the moment your mind begins to drift into self-doubt or negativity and consciously choose a different response. Instead of saying, "I always mess up," shift it to, "I'm learning and I'm improving." Instead of thinking, "No one believes in me," tell yourself, "I'm building belief from within." This isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's about reclaiming control over your internal narrative. When you speak to yourself with compassion instead of criticism, you create emotional safety. That safety allows growth. It gives you permission to make mistakes without labeling yourself as a failure. It allows you to try again, to take risks, to push forward without fear of your own judgment. Confidence doesn't come from always being right. It comes from trusting yourself, even when you're wrong. Most people underestimate how powerful their words truly are. Every sentence you repeat to yourself sends a signal to your subconscious mind, and your subconscious doesn't argue. It obeys. If you constantly affirm that you're unworthy, your subconscious accepts it as truth and begins to manifest behaviors that align with it. But when you affirm that you are capable, strong, and worthy, your subconscious begins to search for evidence to support those beliefs. That's how transformation begins. From within, one thought at a time, you can change the entire direction of your life by changing the language you use in your mind. The person who says, "I'll never get out of this," and the person who says, "I'll find a way," are often in the same situation, but only one of them will move forward, because it's not the external world that defines you. It's the story you tell yourself about what's possible. Speak to yourself like someone you deeply love. Encourage yourself. Motivate yourself. Remind yourself of the times you've overcome, the battles you've won, the strength you've shown. Let your inner dialogue be a source of power, not pain. There will always be moments of doubt. No one escapes that. But when you learn to recognize those thoughts and replace them with intentional, empowering words, you take back control of your emotional state. You stop being a victim of your thoughts and become the author of them. And that shift changes everything, because the most extraordinary transformation in your life will not come from someone else believing in you. It will come from you finally believing in yourself. Most people live their entire lives reacting to their thoughts without ever realizing they have the power to observe them. Thoughts rise and fall like waves, and without awareness, we become lost in their motion. Believing every fear, every worry, every self-criticism as if it were truth. But the moment you begin to step back and watch your mind at work, something incredible happens. You realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. That realization is where real power begins. Awareness is the doorway to transformation. It's the light that reveals what's been hidden beneath the surface. When you start paying attention to the dialogue running through your mind, you start to see patterns, recurring doubts, fears, or stories that keep replaying. Maybe it's the belief that you're not smart enough, not talented enough, or not worthy of success. These patterns feel real because they've been repeated for years, but awareness allows you to see them as what they truly are: mental habits, not absolute truths. Once you see them, you can change them. Imagine standing beside a river, watching leaves float downstream. Each leaf represents a thought, some beautiful, some painful, some completely random. Most people jump into the river, chasing or fighting the leaves, exhausting themselves in the process. Awareness allows you to stand on the bank instead, to simply watch. You don't need to grab every thought or wrestle with every emotion. You just observe, and as you do, you begin to see the space between your awareness and your thoughts. That space is freedom. The problem is, without awareness, thoughts can control behavior. You might wake up feeling anxious and assume the day will go wrong, so you act from that belief. Or you might hear the voice of self-doubt whisper that you'll fail, and without questioning it, you hesitate, procrastinate, or give up. But when awareness steps in, everything slows down. You recognize the thought before it takes root. You catch the anxiety before it becomes your identity. You say, "I'm noticing worry," instead of, "I am worried." That single shift, from identification to observation, changes how you experience reality. Transforming awareness into power is not about avoiding negative thoughts. It's about refusing to let them rule you. You can acknowledge them without surrendering to them. When you see a thought like, "I'm not good enough," awareness lets you respond, "That's just a thought, not a fact." With practice, this separation becomes natural. You begin to choose your mental focus rather than being pulled by it. The mind becomes a tool again, not a master. Awareness also expands your emotional intelligence. Instead of being consumed by anger, fear, or sadness, you begin to sense these emotions as waves of energy passing through you. You notice their presence, feel their texture, and allow them to move on. That doesn't make you detached. It makes you empowered. You no longer suppress or deny what you feel. You simply don't allow it to dictate your worth or direction. Emotional awareness gives you clarity, patience, and a quiet strength that reactive people never experience. The more you practice awareness, the more grounded you become in the present moment. You stop replaying old regrets or worrying about future outcomes, because you realize those thoughts exist only in your mind. The now becomes the only place where real life happens. From this state, you make better decisions, speak with more intention, and act with more confidence. You respond to life instead of reacting to it. It's easy to underestimate the power of awareness because it seems so simple, but this simple act of watching, noticing, and understanding your thoughts has the power to rewrite your entire life story. When you can see clearly what's happening inside you, you gain the ability to change what's happening outside of you. That's not philosophy, that's personal mastery. Awareness doesn't just open your eyes, it opens the path to freedom, clarity, and lasting transformation. Fear has a way of whispering the same lies over and over again. Lies that convince you to stay small, stay safe, and never take a step beyond what feels comfortable. It disguises itself as logic, as caution, as reason. But beneath it all, fear is a story, an imagined outcome that hasn't even happened. It feeds on uncertainty and grows in silence, thriving when you give it your attention. Yet the truth is this: fear cannot survive in the presence of faith. The moment you choose to believe in something greater than your fear, whether it's your purpose, your resilience, or the divine plan unfolding for you, you begin to rise above it. Faith isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward in spite of it. It's the quiet conviction that even when you can't see the path, you trust that the next step will appear. When fear says, "What if it doesn't work?" faith replies, "What if it does?" That single shift in mindset transforms hesitation into courage. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about believing that no matter what happens, you'll have the strength to face it. Every person who has ever achieved greatness has faced fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood. But the difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck isn't the absence of fear. It's how they respond to it. They don't wait for fear to disappear before taking action. They take action while fear is still there. And with every step forward, fear loses its power. Action is faith in motion. It tells your mind, "I may not know how this ends, but I trust myself enough to begin." A faith is a choice you make daily. It's not a one-time moment of inspiration. It's a lifestyle of belief. When challenges arise, faith says, "There's a reason for this. I may not understand it yet, but I'll grow through it." That perspective changes everything. Suddenly, obstacles become opportunities. Setbacks become lessons. What once felt like the end becomes a doorway to something greater. Faith doesn't remove difficulty. It gives it meaning. It reminds you that life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. Fear thrives on imagination. It paints vivid pictures of failure and pain, but faith uses that same imagination to create visions of hope and success. The difference lies in where you choose to direct your mental energy. When you visualize positive outcomes, when you believe in the possibility of victory, you begin to attract it. Your mind aligns with your belief, and your actions follow. That's how faith shapes your reality, through consistent, unwavering expectation of something better. Of course, faith doesn't eliminate struggle. There will be days when doubt feels louder than belief, when everything in you wants to give up. But that's exactly when faith matters most. It's in those moments of uncertainty that you remind yourself, I've been through worse and made it out stronger. You remember the times you thought you couldn't, but somehow you did. Those memories are proof that faith works. They are the foundation upon which you build new courage. Replacing fear with faith also means learning to trust yourself again. It's understanding that you don't need to have every answer right now. You just need to trust that you'll figure it out as you go. Faith is confidence in your ability to adapt, to grow, to persevere. It's knowing that you have within you everything required to meet whatever life brings. You were not created to live in fear. You were created to overcome it. When you start choosing faith over fear, something extraordinary happens. Life begins to open up. You notice new possibilities, new ideas, new strength within yourself. What once felt impossible begins to feel within reach, and that's when you realize if fear never truly controlled your life, you did. You always had the choice to believe in something greater, and every time you choose faith, you reclaim that power and step closer to the life you were meant to live. Your mind is the most valuable space you'll ever occupy, and yet most people guard their phones, their homes, even their social media accounts more fiercely than they guard their thoughts. But the truth is, whatever you allow into your mind will eventually shape your emotions, your actions, and ultimately, your life. The mind is like fertile soil. It doesn't care what seeds you plant. Whether you sow negativity or positivity, doubt or belief, it will grow whatever you feed it. That's why protecting your mental environment is not optional. It's essential. Every piece of information you consume, every conversation you entertain, every song you listen to, every headline you read, leaves an imprint on your subconscious mind. Over time, those imprints become the background noise of your thoughts. If your days are filled with complaints, criticism, and fear-driven news, your inner world will begin to echo those same patterns. But if you surround yourself with inspiration, wisdom, and truth, you start to cultivate peace, strength, and confidence. You can't always control what happens around you, but you can always control what you allow to take root within you. Guarding your mind begins with awareness. Notice how you feel after engaging with certain people or consuming certain content. Do you feel energized or drained, motivated or discouraged? Your emotions are powerful indicators of what nourishes or poisons your inner environment. When you recognize something that consistently lowers your energy or clouds your peace, you have the right and the responsibility to step away. Protecting your mind isn't about isolation, it's about intentional selection. You're not closing yourself off from the world. You're choosing what's worth letting in. Energy is contagious. If you spend time around people who constantly complain, compare, or criticize, their mindset begins to influence yours. But when you surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow, who speak with vision and positivity, you begin to elevate naturally. You absorb their optimism, their confidence, their belief in what's possible. That's why it's said that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Choose those 5 wisely, because they're helping shape your future without you even realizing it. Your mental environment also depends on the spaces you create for yourself. A cluttered room often reflects a cluttered mind. A chaotic schedule often mirrors an unfocused spirit. Create order around you to promote clarity within you. Design moments of silence in your day, time away from noise, notifications, and distractions, so your mind can breathe. In those quiet moments, your thoughts begin to settle, and your intuition becomes stronger. That's when clarity speaks. That's when you reconnect with your deeper purpose. Be mindful of what you repeatedly expose yourself to. The human mind is impressionable. If you constantly listen to messages of limitation, you'll start to believe you're limited. If you feed it messages of abundance, resilience, and growth, you'll begin to act accordingly. This doesn't mean avoiding reality. It means refusing to amplify negativity. The world will always have challenges, but your mind doesn't have to become a reflection of chaos. It can be a sanctuary of calm, focus, and strength. To guard your mental environment is to take back ownership of your inner life. It's choosing to be proactive instead of reactive, intentional instead of passive. It's understanding that you don't owe every voice your attention, every problem your energy, or every opinion your agreement. You get to decide what deserves a place in your mind and what doesn't. That decision, made consistently, changes everything. When you learn to protect your mental space, you stop being pulled in every direction by negativity and distraction. You begin to think clearly, feel deeply, and act with purpose. You start attracting experiences and people that align with your higher self. Your peace becomes non-negotiable, your focus becomes sharper, and your energy becomes magnetic. Because when your mind is clear, your path becomes clear, and from that clarity, the best version of you begins to emerge effortlessly. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has walked through moments of pain, loss, or disappointment. Setbacks are not signs that you've failed. They are signs that you're growing. Yet most people see challenges as barriers, when in truth, they are bridges. Every difficulty carries within it a lesson, a refinement, a hidden preparation for the next stage of your journey. What feels like a detour is often the very road that leads you to your destiny. The difference between those who crumble and those who rise lies in how they interpret their struggles. When life doesn't go as planned, your first instinct may be to question why. Why did this happen? Why me? Why now? But the deeper question, the one that transforms pain into progress, is, what is this trying to teach me? That simple shift in perspective changes everything. It takes you out of victimhood and places you in the position of a learner. You begin to see setbacks not as punishment, but as preparation. Every challenge you've faced has strengthened a part of you that comfort never could. Growth rarely happens in the easy moments. It's forged in the fire of adversity. Think about the strongest people you know. None of them became who they are because life was effortless. They became strong because life tested them, because they endured, because they refused to let their failures define them. When everything falls apart, it's easy to believe that life is against you. But sometimes, life is simply removing what no longer serves you, clearing space for something better. The door that closed may have protected you from a future that wasn't meant for you. The job you lost might have been the push that led you to discover your purpose. The heartbreak that shattered you may have built the compassion you now give to others. Every wound can become wisdom if you're willing to learn from it. Turning setbacks into strength also means embracing discomfort instead of resisting it. Pain often feels unbearable because we fight against it, wishing it would go away. But when you stop resisting and start accepting, pain transforms. It loses its power to control you and begins to teach you. You realize that struggle is not the end. It's the beginning of a new understanding. Each challenge is shaping your character, teaching you patience, building your resilience, and expanding your capacity to handle more than you ever thought possible. The truth is, setbacks reveal what you're made of. When everything is easy, it's simple to appear confident, positive, and focused. But when life tests you, when plans fail, people disappoint, or progress halts, that's when your real strength is revealed. It's in those moments that you discover the depth of your perseverance, the power of your mindset, and the strength of your spirit. Failure doesn't define you, your response to it does. You can either let it harden your heart or strengthen your resolve. When you adopt the mindset that everything is happening for your growth, even the hardest seasons begin to make sense. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start affirming, "This is happening for me." That shift doesn't eliminate pain, but it gives it purpose. You begin to use every obstacle as a stepping stone, every disappointment as direction, every setback as strategy. You realize that nothing is wasted. Not the tears, not the waiting, not the losses. Every moment is shaping you into the person you're meant to become. And one day, when you look back, you'll see that the things you once thought were breaking you were actually building you. The failures you feared most became the foundation for your greatest breakthroughs. The strength you now carry was born from the moments that once brought you to your knees. That's the beauty of life. It refines you through resistance. So instead of running from your challenges, face them with faith. Let every setback remind you of your power, your purpose, and your ability to rise again. Because strength isn't something you find by avoiding hardship. It's something you create by walking straight through it and refusing to give up. Becoming your best self isn't a single moment of revelation. It's a lifelong process of choosing growth again and again, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's inconvenient. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens through daily intention. Every day, you're faced with a choice: to repeat the patterns of yesterday or to step into a better version of yourself. Most people wait for the perfect time, the perfect mood, or the perfect opportunity to change. But the truth is, growth never begins in comfort. It begins in decision. It starts the moment you say, "I refuse to stay the same." But each morning gives you a blank page, an invitation to design the kind of person you want to become. You can choose to feed your doubts or to feed your dreams. You can choose to dwell on what's missing or to focus on what's possible. These small, seemingly ordinary choices create extraordinary results over time. Growth isn't built in giant leaps, it's built in consistent, deliberate steps. Reading one page a day, making one better decision, showing up for yourself even when motivation fades. These are the quiet victories that transform your character. Choosing growth daily requires awareness and discipline. It means noticing the moments when your old habits try to pull you back into comfort and consciously choosing differently. Growth will ask you to leave behind familiar patterns, outdated beliefs, and even certain relationships that no longer align with your purpose. That's not loss. It's evolution. It's shedding what no longer fits the person you're becoming. Change feels uncomfortable because the mind is wired to seek safety, not progress. But safety often keeps you stuck. The very discomfort you avoid is the same force that expands your potential. There will be days when you won't feel like trying. Days when fear, fatigue, or frustration whisper that it's easier to stay the same. But progress doesn't come from feeling ready. It comes from showing up anyway. Every time you take action despite resistance, you strengthen your confidence and prove to yourself that you're capable of more. Growth demands consistency, not perfection. You don't need to do everything right. You just need to keep moving forward. Even small progress, repeated with commitment, compounds into massive transformation over time. Choosing growth also means redefining failure. Every mistake, every setback, every wrong turn is feedback, not defeat. When something doesn't work, it's not a sign to quit. It's a lesson pointing you toward a better way. Growth-minded people don't see failure as the opposite of success. They see it as part of success. They extract wisdom from every experience and use it as fuel to move forward. When you begin to see challenges as opportunities to evolve, you stop fearing them. You start embracing them as necessary steps on your path. To choose growth every day is to choose courage. It's deciding to speak truth when silence feels safer. It's choosing to learn when ignorance feels easier. It's choosing to dream when doubt feels louder. Growth doesn't always look glamorous. It often looks like late nights of effort, quiet self-reflection, and moments of self-doubt that test your resolve. But beneath all of it, growth is beautiful because it means you're alive, you're evolving, you're moving closer to the person you were always meant to be. Over time, this daily commitment to growth becomes your greatest strength. You begin to notice that your reactions change. You respond to challenges with calm instead of panic, with faith instead of fear. You see progress where there once was stagnation. You stop seeking quick results and start valuing deep transformation. Growth becomes your natural state, not because life becomes easier, but because you've become stronger. And in those quiet moments, when you reflect on how far you've come, you realize something profound. It wasn't one grand moment that changed everything. It was 1,000 small choices. 1,000 times you said, "I'll try again." 1,000 times you chose growth over comfort, purpose over ease, and faith over fear. That's how greatness is built. One day, one choice, one moment at a time. And as long as you keep choosing growth, you'll never stop becoming more of who you were destined to be.